French President Francois Hollande was speaking just a short while ago at a gathering of France's mayors, and he said, point blank, in French, France is at war against terrorism by the Islamic State. He also said that he wants a, quote, large coalition working together against ISIS militants to destroy a group that threatens the whole world and commits massacres in the Middle East. He also said that the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle just left to help French military operations in Syria against ISIS. Joining me now is the Weekly Standard senior writer Dagen McCormack and former German Federal Minister of Defense KT Guttenberg. Gentlemen, thank you so much. John, I start with you. The president wants to politicize this and make it about the political candidates and opponents that he disagrees with. Do we need to hear a different, stronger message from our own leader here?
Certainly. I think right now the president is engaging in probably the worst moment of his presidency. You know, France is struck by a terrorist attack, and the president doesn't respond with any sense of a resolve, but rather with sort of petty, petulant, partisan sniping at Republicans. You know, there's a serious debate to be had about what to do about Syrian refugees to mitigate the risk that terrorists could sneak in, and the bigger question is really what to do about ISIS. You know, ISIS, their predecessor, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, was basically destroyed by the U.S. military under Obama's predecessor, George W. Bush. It is now reconstituted into a terrorist army that now has an external operations division that is plotting attacks not only against Europe, but against the United States right now. And so for the president to allow this terrorist army, this terrorist nation state, to simply exist in the Middle East as a legacy of his presidency, I think he needs to think long and hard about that and whether he really believes there's nothing more that we can do to defeat it.
KT, what do you make of all this? We've been covering this raid extensively all morning. Ian Bremmer was on earlier saying that you are seeing greater coordination between France and Russia in terms of dealing with Syria, but the U.S., as it stands now, is still a marginal actor. And we look like we don't want to get pulled into anything. And we're not even talking about boots on the ground, but it's a pushback that you at least feel from our leaders here.
We definitely need a broader coalition than just Russia and France. The interesting fact is that President Hollande asked the European Union first, the member states, for support. He was not asking NATO. So that might serve as a reason for some of the more reluctant personnel here in Washington, others to say, well, let's leave them with the mess first. I don't think that this could be a solution. We need our intelligence services to cooperate with each other. You are having means over here where we can only dream of in Europe, and we have had a lot of mistrust during the last couple of years after the NSA scandals, all of the other things, backing away from each other. So here we need help. On the military level, we need help. We need help when it comes to a strategy, what to do in a broader scope. It's not all about military, of course. You need to address other issues there as well. And this cannot work without the U.S. So a hesitant, shy U.S. in that very regard would be a disaster. But I actually don't expect it, but they need to act now.
So from your perspective, I want to hear, there's this big reluctance on behalf of the United States and maybe other countries about bringing in the military response. From where you sit, from being a former defense minister, why do we have this reluctance when this threat is clearly not an external threat? And how is this even different, what happened in France from what happened on 9/11? This is attack on the homeland, in the heart of the homeland. So why are we so reluctant to have a full-scale military response?
On one hand, we have a fatigue when it comes to military action in many, many countries around the globe. That's true for over here. That's true certainly also for many European countries. And the reluctance is something you not only face here in the US, but also in my home country in Germany. So it is connected, of course, in Germany to its own history. On the other hand, we have been the third biggest troop supplier in Afghanistan for many, 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 many years. But that has led to another feeling now. People look at Afghanistan, people look at Iraq, and ask themselves, what actually is the outcome of it? Is there any clear success we see today, or is the mess even bigger than before? So then the politicians come there and say, elections in 2017, elections in 2018, elections next year. Should we really slide into something which former politicians called adventures? I say yes, we should. We need to, but that's one of the reasons why many don't actually have.
KT.